Today, this talk is Profit Without Oppression, an alternative way forward. Oh, I'm an educator by heart, by trade, so I always define terms so that everybody is on the same page. I don't want you 20 minutes in asking what the hell I'm talking about. We're going to define terms here. Privilege is simply about access. Who has access to what? I don't know why folks get so upset about it, the word. It's so triggering, but it's about who has access to what. We all have relative privilege in our situations. Some places you have more privilege than other people. So privilege is just who has access. Underrepresented is simply about numbers. All these white faces, one white woman. She underrepresented, right? And I think there's a Negro in there somewhere, and he's definitely underrepresented. All right? Marginalized is about treatment, how people are treated. So when someone says marginalization, they mean how systems, institutions, and policies treat them. It is not the same as underrepresented. So you could be underrepresented white women and not be marginalized. You are not diversity. You make diversity numbers look good, but just like affirmative action, white women benefit from affirmative action more than any marginalized other group. Diversity, simply about variety. I use this example. When you were little, or some of y'all have children, most of y'all have children. It's just me that don't like them. When you have a Crayola box of 4, right? Give me a Crayola box of 4. It's a plain, ugly picture. Give me a Crayola box of 64. It's a colorful, ugly picture. I can make colors that I couldn't make before. I can mix things up. Diversity means we can create some things that we can't create with limitations. Inclusion is about somebody's experience. That's it. Do they feel included? You don't get to say if someone's included. They tell you based on how they feel about the space that you're in, how welcome and psychologically safe they feel if they are included. Inclusion is not equality. There's no such thing as equality. That is a myth created by white supremacy. If we have the narrative that everything's equal, when marginalized people ask for what we're not getting, white people see as we're taking more. We've never had. This is why all these conversations about democracy. I've never lived in a democracy. It's never benefited me. This is for white folks. So all y'all white folks hollering about the democracy, we've never had it. So what it tells me is you didn't give a shit until it hit you. Now something you cherish means something to you is about to be lost. It's not about quotas. I don't want people to talk about, okay, I have 2 South Asians. I have 1 African, I don't say African American. We'll talk about that. I just brought some, I am about to do. I don't use the word American because that is exclusionary. There are 3 Americas, Central and South America. When we use American as a default for the U.S., we are excluding three different continents. We cannot do that. That is exclusion. And so I'm saying this stuff, and I'm going to stop and keep saying it because I want you to think about the things you say and do that are exclusionary and harmful. Because when you go to another country and they say, oh, you're American, that's all they think. The whole swath of people get treated like us. So it's not about quotas. So you're not going out to look for somebody with a disability from a marginalized community who's a trans person and say you done ticked off 3 boxes. Inclusion is about experience. So let me give you a timeline of how I got here. In 2014, my dad died. And I was a person who, I jumped around, jobs, career. I just couldn't figure out what I was. I'm a multi-potentialite at heart, which is a person who goes deep down in subjects, and when they done, they move on. I ain't got no, I'm good. I got it, I'm done. I don't need to stay here for 20 years. So for most folks, particularly in systems, institutions, and policies, I don't fit anywhere. I didn't fit anywhere because, you get a career, you stay there, you da-da-da. I had no desire for that, right? So me and my dad were close as hell. They used to call him Big Boo-Boo. I was Little Boo-Boo. That's how close we were. And I had this unrealistic idea from childhood that when my dad passed away, I would die. I would die too. But when he passed away in 2014, I had some decisions to make because I didn't die. But I lived through what I thought would kill me, right? So I have just lived through what I thought would kill me, so what was I afraid of anymore? So I left education because I was a special needs teacher. I was certified special needs. I went to Hawaii, went to Maui for a week. I got this tattoo because my dad used to chop wood all the time. So it says, "Live Aloha," and it has an axe in the middle. And I sent back a group text. I said, I'm leaving education. I'm going into tech. When I figure that out, I'll let y'all know. I had no clue. But what I realized, because when my father died, not only did it force me to say, you're living, what are you going to do? He left me some money. And I'm only realizing now that he paid for my liberty. I feel what my father gave me is what slaves used to do when former slaves used to buy their families. Because what he gave me was time affluence. It gave me a year to go up. This was my first conference, Supernova South in 2014. I didn't know shit about tech except that I was a consumer of tech, and I want to understand about being a producer of tech. Because that's what, again, systems, institutions, and policies, if you think about this, all we talk about is producing stuff. Customer this, customer that. Even before blockchain and all that got weird, when I was first going to blockchain and cryptocurrency talks, all they could talk about was a whole bunch of white dudes, and all they could talk about was what they were going to do for everybody else. And I was like, so why don't you teach these people how to use this technology so they can do it for themselves? But whiteness doesn't want that because they got to be in the middle. They got to be arbitrating. They got to be extracting wealth, extracting from that. So no, we're not going to teach them. We want them to become customers. And so I learned, I was like, that conference has so many tracks. It was basically, my undergraduate is interior design. I never even knew about a UX. I was like, oh, I can just jump right up in, what? I was in there like a kid in a candy store. That first year, that's when people first started talking about, it didn't even have an E in it. It was D&I. It wasn't D&I at the time. And everybody was on the bandwagon. They was giving black women free tickets to I was going to every conference they give me a ticket to. Because I was just like, again, multi-potential, like I was diving deep. And so at some point, I knew I had to learn the language of tech. And everybody kept saying, oh, learn the code is easy. Oh, learn the code is easy. Bullshit! Learning anything is hard. Learning another language is even harder. And so I was like, because bringing up my education background, we are gaslighting adults. Adult learning theory. We internalize our failures. We're not going to say, oh, it's that coding is hard to learn. No, what we say is, it's not right for me, so we leave. We stop. And so I was like, all these crappy boot camps with all these people writing crappy curriculums that's not rooted in adult learning theory. Hell, it's not even rooted in pedagogy. It's just somebody who used to code, decided to make something and put it out in the world, and then companies are saying, this is a thing and we're going to hire, but no, this shit sucks. So you finish that, and there's a junior developer. It was like a Grand Canyon between how to get from there to get to that first job. Again, being an educator, I've been mentoring my whole life. So I started talking in 2016 about mentoring. That's when I first started. I was like, let's get out here and just talk about mentoring. And over time, people was like, I was sitting around and they're like, you got some other things to talk about. So can you, oh yeah, I can talk about a lot of different things. Again, I'm a multi-potentialite. I go down on a whole bunch of subjects. So I am a generalist on a whole bunch of odd things. I mean, just random things. But what a multi-potentialite is able to do is connect the dots. Is to see the systems in things. So I'm not a siloed thinker. I'm a systems thinker. So I had this whole project. had some young man in Nigeria. I was asking questions. I was brave enough to go on Stack Overflow. I was asking questions, and he's like, I'll help you build this. So we worked on this whole project. And it was really fun. We had mentors and mentees, and that was how, but then what happened was, people kept asking me to come to events and speak. Didn't want to pay me, didn't want to pay, barely pay a hotel or whatever. I thought it was I'm supposed to be grateful. I'm working. Do you know how much it takes to put into this? And so I'm supposed to be grateful. I'm supposed to need exposure. Wells Fargo don't take exposure for my mortgage. So I'm going to need some dollars. And so at the end of 2017, I was pissed. I had been traveling the world, bank account on $30. But everybody wanted to say, oh, Kim can't pay her bills. Kim's about to lose her house and her car. So I was so pissed at the end of 17, I was talking with a friend on the phone, and I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I just want to disrupt. I just want to be disruptive. I don't give a damn no more. I just want to cause a scene. We said, oh, shit. There we go. And that's how hashtag cause a scene started. And what that was me just calling out all kinds, embarrassing the hell out of people on Twitter. And as I was doing that work, I created a podcast that was 2 years old. I created conferences. Now, mind you, podcasts, conferences, the most diverse things I've ever seen. The lineup for my podcast has so many black women intellectuals. And these companies like, how do you find? You ain't fucking looking. Conference. I had so many non-binary and trans people speaking at my conference because they felt safe. I had someone who traveled. I was doing my conference in London. She flew to London to speak at my conference because she said that was where she felt safe to tell her story. If I can do it, now I was about to say y'all can too, but you can't. You can't. And when I came up with the guiding principles, because I was like, how do you do this? I just started talking about stuff. I was like, because I came all these apolitical libertarian dicks in tech. I'm so sick of y'all. There is no apolitical. It is just the fact that all the people in the room with you have the same political view, so you don't need to discuss it. It's not apolitical. There is no neutrality. Once you understand that, then you move down to intention without strategy is chaos. We have a lot of intentions in this industry. Very little strategy and a whole lot of goddamn chaos. Lack of inclusion is a risk and increasingly a crisis management issue. How many people you see getting fired on the weekend because they done said something stupid? And so now your company got to deal with your stupid shit. And they got to put out a statement. They was just minding their own business. CEO was just probably on the lake somewhere chilling. Now he got to come. I remember that with the Google dude. The CEO was on vacation. The D&I person had just started a job like 2 weeks ago, and then that manifesto came out, and they had to shut everything down. And people want to say, oh, it was freedom of speech. Sweetheart, you use company equipment to disrupt company work. There is accountability. Y'all not used to being held accountable. That's all that was. And the most important, once you get through all of these, we have to prioritize the most vulnerable. Because the most vulnerable have the lived experiences that help us, that define us, that allow us to create products and services that we can never eliminate harm. What we seek is to minimize harm. Because we're trying to think about this, people, who are anybody in this room, unless you're here to be in the contrarian, which I could give a damn about. You have to understand we're trying to create something that was never meant to exist. I should still be a slave. So we're going to make mistakes. We're going to fuck up. I mean, sometimes we're just going to fuck up. But we have to understand how to make amends and move on. Take that lesson, make amends, make whoever you harmed whole again, as close to possible, and keep moving. I don't know if this is even...
Threats to whiteness, to masculinity, drive this mediocre behavior
You can't hear that,
Well,
Karen.
I think part of it too is just
Can you turn it up?
in part of functioning capitalism.
Just read
The
it.
idea is this is the deal. This is what you get for participating in this system. You will get this, comfortable life. You get your house with a two-car garage and your wife and your kids, and this is the promise, and you deserve it. You were born with it. This is this is your right. And the truth is that never fully works out for everyone. We don't have enough to go around in this system that extracts most of the profits to those at the very top. And so what happens then? Well, you say, well, look around, you were going to have it, but this person took it, and that person took it. And who? The people who we've always said are supposed to be the line in that letter. So we can say, oh, well, look, we did all this affirmative action, and that's why you don't have a job. Instead of saying, oh, 80% of the profits for this corporation went to stockholders, and that's why you don't have a job, right? And so you have to look at this and see that people are being played. It really is a manipulation that ties into people's biases and really forces that makes them think that their biggest competition are the people that they were told they're supposed to be above, and that their biggest problem are the rises and the gains for people that they were told they would never have to compete with.
So I share that because if you have not read the book Dying of Whiteness, you need to pick it up. Because people believe that, once white people are educated, they'll do better. His research has shown, he's gone to the most rural parts of this country and asked white folks, if I gave you health care, but it meant that black people had health care, they said they would not want health care. White people die of whiteness. No one escapes white supremacy unharmed. It is not allowing white folks to be their best. Because for you, white supremacy has two roles: destruction and chaos. That's it. That's why people keep looking for, there is no bottom. There is no bottom. Stop looking for it. You're destroying yourselves in service to white supremacy. And I'm going to say this, and it's going to be recorded. White women, your chief role is maintenance of white supremacy. You literally breed white supremacists. It is your responsibility, if you want to be anti-racist, to deal with your shit. Racism equals race prejudice plus social and institutional power. Black people cannot be fucking racist. We can hate your ass, but we have no way to leverage the systems, institutions, and policies of white supremacy in our own behalf. So you look at people always say, what about Candace Owens? Let Candace Owens say something that white folks think is out of line, like what she did after the damn Super Bowl when she said that black ass halftime was the best halftime she saw. They ripped into her ass. She does not get to say anything about blackness or in service to blackness. It is always in service to white supremacy. We cannot be racist. We do not have the institutional power. Racism is a system of advantage based on race. Racism is a system of oppression based on race. Racism equals a white supremacist system. And I need to update that slide because it's systems, institutions, and policies. Racism is different from racial prejudice, hatred, or discrimination. Racism involves one group having the power to carry out systematic discrimination through the institutional policies and practices of the society and by shaping the cultural beliefs and values that support those racist policies and practices. White people, you don't have to do shit to be racist. That's why you're racist. All the systems, institutions, and policies that have been created allow you can just sit back and coast. White dudes, assignment, go look at your CV or resume and see how many of those jobs that you got that you weren't qualified. I've never had a damn job that I was not overqualified for. I don't get to coast. I don't get to be mediocre and unremarkable. Yes, I say white men are mediocre and unremarkable because you are. You are not my equals. You have never had to put in this much work to do shit. Doesn't mean I hate you. I actually have a great deal of grace and compassion and sympathy for you. Because you are being gaslighted too. They call you genius. You're not genius. I look at Elon Musk. That man, he has the wealthiest, because he ain't got the most money because it's all in stocks, but the wealthiest person in the world. And he still can't find peace. He still finds necessary to spend his days trolling people on Twitter. That's right. Think about that. Wealth does not get you out of this. Anti-blackness. The Council for Democratizing Education defines anti-blackness as being a two-part formation that both voids blackness of value while systematically marginalizing black people and their issues. This is what we need to stop thinking about binaries. These are not black or white, good or bad. They're nuanced. These are nuanced conversations. So, what people need to understand, how white supremacy and anti-blackness works. It privileges white folks while also harming black people. It's not one-sided. Blackness was created to be opposite of whiteness. Whiteness needs something to be against. You can't do it with it's not one thing, it's both. So when you see me engaging on Twitter or anywhere, you'll see that I'm having this conversation about the whole thing. I'll bring up one thing and this other thing. And another thing. And maybe and another thing. Aaron and I just launched a new podcast called The Anti-Racist Economy. And Aaron is my moderator. She wanted to record the conversations that we have so that white people can hear how I break stuff down. And the first conversation we had was, I did a tweet thread, that black people who know the work that I do will ask me, do you have white friends? And no, it's not. Because what they don't realize is that my answer forces them to rethink their white relationships. Because I honestly can only have the 5 of y'all at a time. Y'all are fucking exhausting. I don't manage your feelings. And also the relationships are not equal. Aaron and we're not in an equal relationship. She's here to service me if she wants to have an anti-racist practice. We're not equals. So that takes a lot. And so that means people have to go back and look at their husbands, their wives, their whites, all of that stuff. And they end up seeing, well, shit, that's motherfucker racist. And I done had babies with him. That's what you need to do. And I'm going to say this. If you are a white person and you are a guardian of a black child or brown child, and you do not have them in serious relationship with black and brown people, you are committing child abuse. They do not think about privilege. They do not have the power to tell you that what you're saying and doing has harmed them. When you go out in public and someone does something to that black child, they don't feel safe enough to tell you because y'all can't manage y'all feelings and you make it about yourself. So now they got to learn how to process their own trauma to keep mommy and daddy's feelings in check. That's child abuse. You send these babies out here thinking that the world is colorblind. That's a fucking lie. Child abuse. They're not prepared for what they have to deal with. And I take that from personal experience. My godparents were white. I used to go to Shrine of the Immaculate Conception. They lived in Lilburn. When they would take me to the grocery store, people would stop and stare. They never seen a black person. Nobody ever talked to me about that. Nobody ever said, hey, this is what this is. Anti-blackness, the first form of anti-blackness is overt racism. Beneath this anti-black racism is the covert structural and systemic racism which categorically predetermines the socioeconomic statuses of black people in this country globally. The structure is held in place by anti-blackness black policies, institutions, and ideologies. The second form of anti-black blackness is the unethical disregard of black institutions and policies. This disregard is a product of class, race, and or gender privilege certain individuals experience due to anti-black institutions and policies. This form of anti-blackness is protected by the first form of, so let's think about when the Queen died. Have you seen the story of the African researcher who said, basically, fuck her? Yes, I see. And she worked at Carnegie Mellon, and they put out a statement that this is not our values. Bitch, that's her lived experience. That's how you use systems, institutions, and policies to shut black women up or to shut the black narrative up. CRT, critical race theory, that's because white people are ignorant. It ain't made up. We've just all been indoctrinated in the same white supremacy and anti-black systems, institutions, and policies. We all, I say this all the time, we all have our own internalized white supremacy and anti-blackness to deal with. But white people, you're fucking ignorant. And I need you to embrace that, because when you embrace it, you're ignorant, you're willing to learn. Until you're willing to learn, you are harmed, and I don't trust you. I always say, white folks are racist by design, because systems, institutions, and policies, and can't be trusted by default without consistent, demonstrated anti-racist practice. So that's why I don't have many white. You have to prove to me that I can trust you. I don't trust by default, not white folks. Oh, hell no. Because at some point, even these friends that I have, at some point, there will be an opportunity where they will have a choice between prioritizing their whiteness and my safety. And they will prioritize whiteness every fucking time. The reason they stay in my life is because I understand that that's just the default. That's how they've been trained. But they also know you better make amends and you better make me whole. If you can't do that, you can get the fuck on. Whiteness is not equal to blackness, but that's the best thing we have. So I don't talk about individual white people, except to make an example of some that kind of thing. Because I talk about whiteness, which is a construct that upholds, that justifies the systems, institutions, and policies. And the best thing I can get to is blackness, because there are people like, oh, I'm not white. The fuck you're white to me. I'm not going to ask, if you can fill out government paperwork and check white and you can get away with it, you're white. I don't give a damn if you're Jewish. I don't give a damn if you're light-skinned black. I don't give a damn. If you can pass as white, then you're white. We don't go around asking, so what kind of white are you? You don't ask us, what kind of black am I? Anti-racist behavior. When I say that whiteness is racist by design and can't be trusted by default without consistent, demonstrated, that's where we get from intention to strategy. Demonstrated anti-racist behavior. What does it look like? An active anti-racist practice. So I started looking at these, again, multi-potentialite. So I started watching these documentaries. And I started questioning, because people always talk about capitalism is bad. Capitalism is bad. Oh, capitalism is evil. Capitalism is a theory. We'll get to that. But watch Saving Capitalism, Requiem for a Dream. Saving Capitalism is on Netflix. Requiem for a Dream is on Prime. I forgot where Poverty Inc. is. But I love Poverty Inc. because it talks about nonprofits. So people think it's just for-profits. No, it's nonprofits too. All of them are working under the same institutions and policies. Let's give you an example. Raise your hand if you know about Tom's Shoes. You know, you buy a shoe, you get a shoe. That company has decimated the shoe industry in these countries. Because why the hell would I pay for shoes if you're giving me shoes for free? So now we got people who can't make money. So now you want to say that they're lazy or whatever. So now we got to come in and save them. No, you decimated their whole industry. Kenya had the most diverse cotton crop back in the day. Now Kenya, because we had to get rid of all our shit. We imported it for cheaper than. Now Kenya has to get all their cotton imported. They went from having the most diverse cotton crop in the world to getting it imported. White supremacy only extracts. And that's why that woman said, and black people don't give a shit that their queen died. The whole colonial system was about extracting wealth. But we don't want to have that conversation. Powell. You need to read the Powell memo and go get an original version, not the ones that people are making commentary on, because I want you to read what he wrote. He actually became a Supreme Court judge as well. But the Powell memo came out of right after the 60s with the flower power and people were trying to be all liberal. Chambers of Commerce got together and said, oh, no, we ain't doing this. That's why you got conservative research started, conservative fund, and they knew about a long-term plan. In the memo, he says, this will take years and it will take money. So what we see right now, people want to act like this is not who we are. Yes, the fuck it is. This was a strategy. The course, the way they are, started back in the 70s and probably before that. Trumpism, it started long, it just didn't have, people like, we're not, baby, I live in Georgia. You can't tell me I didn't see this all my life. But what I appreciate living in Georgia, because they got the Confederate flags and shit on the, I know who not to fuck with. You go up north, you don't know who the hell to trust. Because y'all's the good liberals. Capitalism is just a freaking theory. It is how it's been implemented. Adam Smith, who people say is the grandfather of economics, was an abolitionist. He wrote Wealth of Nations in 1776. Ooh, what else happened in 1776? The independence of this fucked up country. Thomas Jefferson, Benjamin Franklin, they all knew about his work, but they had to justify slavery. So they bastardized his ideas, and we've imported that shit all over the world. Our capitalist system is rooted not just in that, because if it's just that, everybody who could have private ownership, I wouldn't be struggling. I mean, black and brown folks wouldn't have this problem. But you've institutionalized, we were 3/5 of a people. I mean, we weren't even, first we wasn't people, and then they gave us 3/5 of one. And then all of a sudden we supposed to be whole. I'm not whole. I'm not whole. What the hell is my fucking 40 acres and a mule? I don't know what I can do with a mule at this point, but I want my 40 acres. So after I read that, I started my first book title was going to be Redefining Capitalism Without White Supremacy, The Economics of Being Anti-Racist. And so that was the first book I was going to write. So that was what I was thinking about. And so with the guiding principles, I realized what I was seeing was people were bringing in marginalized people in these communities, but they didn't know how to engage with them. So you bring in folks and you're harming them at the same time. This is why I don't believe in, don't ever use the word microaggressions with me, ever. There's nothing micro about it. It is professional violence. And I need you to operate from that stance. It is professional violence. Every time a white woman cries at work and they ain't hit you in your fucking throat, that's professional violence. Because what happens is, first of all, you need to understand how long it takes a black woman to write an email to y'all ass. Whoa! Too fucking long. And so I done put all this energy in it, and you see one thing that you think, now you've inferred intonations and meaning in some shit. So now you got an attitude. We can't even talk about the damn thing I put in the email, because now your ass over here crying and upset. Now everybody, again, because you white, they go over there to figure out what's wrong with you. And so now I'm on the damn defensive. And all I wanted to tell the bitch was I was bringing turkey for dinner, for the potluck. That's all I wanted. But she didn't like how I told her don't put no goddamn raisins in that shit. I don't know what the fuck white folks do with raisins. We don't eat raisins like that. We do not eat raisins like that. It is a snack for kids. You fuck up somebody's Thanksgiving with that shit. But the rules of engagement was how I was like, because I was causing harm too. And I was like, how do we do this? How do we put these people, how do we have this? So what I say, We don't question anybody's humanity or right to exist. That's at the community level, period. We shut that down. We do not have conversations about if trans people or whatever the fuck they identify with is who they are. We don't get to discuss that. It's not up for debate. And then we talk, what we can discuss is lived experience, but you're only doing that to evaluate who has first you have to evaluate who has a position of power, or privilege, oppression, ability to cause harm. Because those people only talk when we got time left. But the dialogue is focused on understanding, not providing proof. So you sit on Twitter every day, somebody will say something, they're like, where's the data? Fuck your data. My life is my data. Where we can go is ideology or belief. That's the individual level. Where dialogue is focused on amplifying, understanding, and challenging white supremacy and discrimination. Those are the conversations I'm willing to have. But that wasn't enough either. And we'll get to what we came up with. So in 2020, all this happened. Now, mind you, I was made for a pandemic. I don't like y'all ass. I like to be in the house. And I was high as fuck most of that time. I had just come back from Long Beach with my stash. And the next week they closed down South by Southwest. And I was like, oh, this shit's serious because all of Austin closed down? Okay. I was in the house happy and high. But this is what happened. And it was funny because I couldn't have predicted a pandemic, but I said something because I realized, because before years, I would say white people need to be uncomfortable. Then I was like, no, white people can endure a lot of discomfort. So white people need to be in pain. Then the pandemic popped up and I was like, oh, okay. But then I saw white people say, send the elderly back. They don't mind if they die. What the fuck? White people, you don't understand community. You do not understand community, solidarity, and loyalty. Grandma could be in a wheelchair with one eye and a colostomy bag on her side, and we're going to make sure she in the house. We wasn't going to send grandma out nowhere. We was going to make sure everybody who came in the house, don't fuck with grandma. If she gets sick, I'm coming after one of y'all asses. Y'all don't understand that. But we've had to develop that because without that community, we wouldn't have survived. And this is why desegregation was a failed experiment. It was an experiment that we need to have because we need to prove, again, y'all want data. We need to prove that this shit wasn't going to work. What happened was desegregation was not on black people's terms. It was on white folks' terms, which meant we had to assimilate. We lost our community. Like this is Auburn Avenue, right? This community was thriving into desegregation. We became white. And boy, is that claustrophobic. Good God Almighty. Y'all ain't got no flavor. Shit. Whew, y'all can't move. Just bland. Just bland. That's why y'all steal all our shit. There is nothing unique or creative about whiteness. Everything about whiteness has been taken from somewhere else throughout history. Look at this. Right here. So this was, look at that date. That was right after George Floyd, right? I offered this course. 1,200 people showed up. Okay, we ain't done yet. But what I told black people at the time, I said, if you doing this, if you black and you ain't making money right now after all this white guilt, I don't know what to tell you. Because I knew at some point, white folks was going to realize, oh, this ain't my shit. I was feeling bad for a second, but my shit over here, that's their shit. As you can see, what happened? White people got tired. They got bored. They got offended. Racism is offensive, bitches. Prepare to get offended. 2021. I was done. I was fucking done. And I knew something was that morning, I saw them moving the barricades. I said, fuck it, I'm taking a nap. I woke up and all hell had broke loose because I knew what was happening. I knew it's white people, this belongs to them. Because my black ass and my friends was up there, we wouldn't have got that damn far. All white asses would have been tased, shot, and everything else. This is white folks shit. And this is what, at that point, I said, these are the thoughts that came to me. I was no longer putting new wine in old wineskins. The master's tools would never dismantle the master house. Remember that book title when I said it was something, I don't even think of something dismantling white supremacy and something. I don't even think about it no more because I realized there's no way to dismantle systems, institutions, and policies of white supremacy and anti-blackness. They're not broken. They are working as designed. So, and I was miserable doing Cause a Scene. That was a lot of effort, every day, energy, educating white folks and clocking the ones that got on my nerves. I'm a joyful, silly person, as you see. That work was not joyful and silly, and I could not see myself doing it long term. That's how black women die, dealing with y'all shit on a daily basis. And I was like, I'm not doing it. Because black people are not my target audience. My target audience are white folks. Because as a classroom teacher, I have great classroom management. It is, stop doing that. This is why you're going to stop doing that, and this is what you're going to do instead. Cause a Scene, I was stuck in that loop. Stop doing that. This is why you stop doing that. I was stuck in the loop. I was teaching kindergarten over and over and over again, which is designed to distract. So I don't ever get over to the other side of what are we going to do next. We're no longer creating widgets. This is not the industrial economy where you gave somebody a manual, put them on an assembly line and say, hey, make 1,000 of these and they got to look like the thousands over there. That's not what we're doing anymore. Business leaders must learn to operate in an information economy, but information alone has no inherent value. You can go on Google right now. There's a whole bunch of shit on there. It don't add to no value unless you can do something with it. It's information, but until it turns into knowledge, it has no value. It's only information that is developed into knowledge that has value. To that end, my goal is to democratize business school education. Let me tell you about this. These people talking about these student loans, they can kiss my ass. I got over $300,000 in student loans because let's be honest, I would not be here, people would not be listening to me if I didn't have these fucking pieces of paper. That's why we're not equal. There are people in tech, CEOs ain't been to college. Black women are the most degreed people in this country, not because we want to be, but because to get in the room with you, we have to be. So this conversation about student loan forgiveness it's not fair, I pay back a lot. Shut the fuck up. It's not fair that I had to incur these loans. So, and I'm privileged even to get this loan money. So what happens is, that's why you have all these businesses run by white folks, because y'all keep that knowledge within y'all, don't share it with anybody. So business school education so that business leaders everywhere, particularly from marginalized and vulnerable communities, can develop the skills and knowledge needed to build successful businesses. At the intersection of theory and application lies knowledge, creativity, innovation, and the opportunity to redefine our global capitalist systems without white supremacy. Products and services are not businesses. So this is where I get into what I do. I advise tech leadership. Products and services is not a business. Just because you coded something and somebody bought it, that doesn't mean you have a business. You need processes, procedures, and policies. You need to operationalize your core values. You need to think about other people. Most businesses, my clients, every time they hire a new person, they got to start over. The whole system, they don't know what they do. Every time they have nothing in their operations. That's what makes a business. And that's why you see, Uber and all these people who've been losing billions for years now freaking out because they don't have a business that's viable. White folks get funded off your ideas. We only get funded once we've proven that we can make money, that we're already making money. We don't get funded off an idea. This city, who lives in Atlanta? Raise your hand. You remember 5 years ago how many goddamn scooter companies we had? We barely have sidewalks. Why do we have so many scooter companies? This is this is a driving city. Unless it was at a university campus, there was no need to have a doggone scooter sitting in the middle of the doggone sidewalk so that somebody with a disability can't get past. That was not going to work here, but they got VC money to fund an idea. You cannot manage what you cannot measure. That's why you don't have a business. When I ask the question, what did you do this or that? But we collecting a whole bunch of data on customers and stuff. What are we doing? Marginalized entrepreneurs overwhelmingly create jobs for themselves rather than businesses. All too often, organizations fail, can't scale, or become toxic because their leaders don't understand that growth requires processes to enable connectedness, innovation, and competitive advantage. So I didn't say this. I'm finishing up my doctorate in business administration, focusing on technology entrepreneurship. I don't say that because I need your validation. I say that because fuck it, I earned it. Successful organizations are built on foundations that enable the leaders to turn information into knowledge in order to scale, evolve, and recover. If I don't feel safe, this is the Black woman's experience at work. Y'all gaslit her. She know HR. She know the custodians. She know the receptionists. She know the people in marketing. And she gonna keep, your shit could be on fire. And she gonna be sitting there like, I think it's time for me to start my own business. And she gonna take all your shit with her. And 2 months later, you gonna, close the door. Close the door. And 2 months later, you're going to wonder, well, what happened to Rebecca? What's happened to the company? Oh, Rebecca left. The ability for organizational leaders to successfully create and manage operations relies heavily on how well they are at processing, developing the necessary process. What time is it? Okay, but we started late. Okay. When leaders take the time to understand and operationalize their organizational functions, they avoid common barriers to success while being able to recover more quickly from unexpected events. Building a successful organization with fewer unintended consequences requires more than a great product or service. It requires leaders to be able to give all stakeholders the experiences they want and the ability to manage the processes. These are the stakeholders. I don't talk about shareholder value. Talk about stakeholders. Those who work for you, those who partner with you, those who buy from you, those who are impacted by you, and then those who invest in you. Because if all of that's taken care of, their investment will be taken care of. Going from product to service focus to business model focus takes time, intention, and strategic effort. All are necessary in order to innovate, differentiate, and compete in the information economy. Also, building stakeholder rather than shareholder-focused organizations is a proactive approach to addressing inclusion, diversity, safe spaces, and developing a harm reduction perspective. When leaders create organizations around well-defined and tested core values that consider the needs of all stakeholders and have processes in place to monitor progress, they are less likely to discover at some point in the future that they have been nurturing an exclusionary environment with unintended consequences. Profit. The financial gain, especially the difference between the amount of earned and the amount spent. That's what profit is. It's simple. These words are simple. Oppression, prolonged, cruel, and unjust treatment or control. Okay. Computer with did. All right. So, profit without oppression. When I said that I no longer focus on dismantling the current systems, institutions, and policies, and what I said we need to, after the rules of engagement, that wasn't enough, I created profit without oppression because it's my economic theory and it's my work for the rest of my life. I want to test and see, can we have an economic system that is supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free? Just like they made. When I read the Power Memo, I felt empowered. If he can create this shit, I can create my own shit. And that's where profit without oppression came from. It is about, can we build I'm not trying to dismantle that. I want to build alternatives. Now you have a choice. So right now you don't have a choice. So I'm working on building an ecosystem. I got a lot of irons in the fire. And it's all about, someone asked me the other day, yesterday, about having my personal assistant, and how do you do that? I said, what I can tell you is, we believe that our relationships should be built in supremacy-free, coercion-free, discrimination-free, and exploitation-free. And because of the power dynamic, I know that I have to prioritize her because she's the most vulnerable. And that's how we work. I am not her boss. I hate that word. I manage her roles and responsibilities. So that's how what people screwed up with these flat organizations. People still need to be held accountable. But I'm not her boss. I'm not anybody's boss. So that's not, this will get away from you gaslighting black women. Because all you're responsible for is managing the roles and responsibilities that they're hired for. Their personalities ain't your goddamn business. So that's it. And have a wonderful day.